It's time to grow and scale your coaching business the impact-driven, simple and sustainable way. Welcome to Rising Coaches with Sofia Bernardi. I'm your host, Sofia, mindset and business coach, supporting ambitious new and rising coaches to master their mindset, create an aligned and profitable strategy, and grow a six-figure business and beyond using the Rising Coach method. I built $1 million business by the age of 26 in under 4 years, and I've coached hundreds across the globe to build incredible businesses that create freedom and fulfillment whilst having a whole lot of fun along the way. And in this podcast, I will teach you the mindset, strategy, and energetics to do the same. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to Rising Coaches with Sofia Bernardi. In today's episode, I am bringing you behind the scenes for my monthly goals progress for the month of April. So today's date is the 6th of May. I learnt my lesson from the previous months of wanting to record this definitely after the month has ended rather than doing it in the final week of the month where the month hadn't fully ended, so I could give a proper review. So I've learnt that lesson, and I'm really excited to bring you this review where I very transparently, and that's not always easy or comfortable, share with you what has worked, what has not worked, what I'm going to do differently each month so that I can reach my goals that I've set for myself. Now, this month, or should I say the month of April, was a huge month for me, absolutely huge. I have a lot to share and cover, but just before I get into it, just a little summary on what my goals are for 2024. It is to have a 600k cash year, it's to weigh 65 kilos, go on weekly date nights, invest $100,000 in shares, save $200,000, and have 30k podcast downloads. Those are my goals. I don't usually set so many goals, but I wanted to have a goal for like the important areas of my life. Some goals, as you can hear, are much more significant than others. And that is very intentional because I do believe that if you spread your focus too thin, it's going to affect your results. So there are some of these goals that I'm a lot more attached to in terms of like care factor than others. If you would like to hear the previous monthly update podcast episodes, we will leave them all linked below in the show notes, as well as the very original podcast where I spoke about this in great depth before the year actually started. So let's start with the 600k cash goal. So I was just $5,000 short from reaching my goal on that for this month, for the month of April. Now, I had a huge month, lots of things to focus on and do. This has definitely been the busiest season I've been in for a very long time. It's also not a complaint. It's something I've absolutely chosen and have control over, but it's a season, and I'm willing to go through these seasons to move through some really big things so that the payoff and the reward can be for next month and aka this month, May, and the months to come. I'm willing to do that because I'm in business for the long run, and I see a lot of coaches go wrong here where they play the short-term game and they're not willing to take a step back sometimes or do things that means, it's not feeling as easeful all of the time, but actually that stops them from creating that long-term growth that they're after. So to be honest, if you knew the amount of things I've been doing and navigating behind the scenes, nothing's negative, by the way, it's just a lot. Like, I actually feel like amazing in my life, but just in the business, it's just been a lot to move through. And to do all of that and only be $5,000 short for reaching my monthly goal is actually like, I'm in shock about that because I have not prioritized sales this month at all. So that's actually was, something that I was really proud of. I couldn't even believe it. And $5,000 can be made so easily in my world. So I'm not one bit, upset about that, to be honest. So that was actually kind of cool to know. But I technically speaking did not reach the milestone for my 600k cash goal. In terms of what I would do differently, where do I even begin? There would be so many things I would do differently, but again, it was a season I've chosen to have multiple things on the go at once, which has ultimately impacted my sales. And not even just multiple things on at once, but actually multiple changes on at once. So Let me paint a picture. I have decided to redo my entire core curriculum for all of my programs. Why? Because my standards are through the roof when it comes to client delivery. I want them to have the best possible experience and receive the deepest support and the best value so that they can grow really quickly. Because to be honest, we could talk about my financial goals and my wins all day, every day, but if my clients aren't generating results, then my results mean nothing to me. And so whilst it's not a great financial decision to spend the month and more redoing my entire curriculum, like it's been ultra time consuming, it's ultimately something that's very worth it for me and is a higher priority for me than making money, to be honest. And it's also, again, just a short-term shift. Like, you just update the curriculum and then you're done with it. It's not like it's going to drag on and affect me for months and months and months. So I'm a pretty quick action taker, but there's been lots of things going on behind the scenes. So it did take a little bit longer than I would have liked, but we are finally done as of yesterday. So my goodness, I am very happy. So I have essentially recorded over 50 new videos across my 3 programs. Yes, 50. And I've also created like 30 plus new documents. It is wild, and I have never been more happy about the inside of my curriculum than I have been today. We are releasing it to all of my clients today, and I'm so excited because the work that has been put in behind the scenes and from my team to actually not just get this up, but we're actually upgrading course platforms as well, has been a lot of work. Like, my goodness, have I put in the hours for this? And so that ultimately affected my financial results, if I'm being honest, because I chose to prioritize that over my launch. And when you don't prioritize something, whether that be your health or your relationships or your business, naturally you are going to receive consequences with that. And so it was something I chose. It was something I knew that was going to happen, and it just is what it is, which is why I have a smile on my face as I tell you that I did not reach my financial goal this month, because in the scheme of things it just doesn't matter. So anyways, I updated the whole course curriculum. I spent a lot of last week like on the floor recording these modules, and when I say on the floor, that is because over the last month I have been house sitting for some family friends in beautiful Sunshine Coast. We absolutely love it here, but I don't have my normal gear. Hence this podcast episode. If you're watching the video, I am not in my office. I also don't have my fancy mic, so you might hear that the sound quality is different. Hence recording things on the floor so that I can have pillows around me and I can be in an area where at least the sound won't be as appalling as if I was out in the open in the living room area, because this house does not have an office. I don't know how people function without an office, but they don't need one, so they don't have one. They just use the rooms for bedrooms instead. So I'm on the floor, and I just think that that's, such a beautiful picture of like entrepreneurship, because so many people think, oh, it's like sipping margaritas by the beach and traveling for a living and all these sorts of things, when actually the reality is often like painted quite differently for most people, and definitely in certain seasons. So that's been my reality, like just doing the best I can with the resources I've got. I could have overthought it and delayed it because I don't have the nice mic and I'm not in my background, but I was like, do you know what? Done is better than perfect. Who cares if the sound is slightly different in the videos? Everything else will be exactly to standard in terms of the PowerPoint slides and the information I'm actually teaching and the layout of the program and so forth. And I'll probably re-record the whole bloody thing in 12 months anyways, because that's just my standard of, as I learn, I like to improve, and done is better than perfect. And that's something I preach to my clients, so I had to walk my talk with that as well. I could have so easily delayed it and had it in the back of my head bombarding me and annoying me so much, or I could have just done it and gotten that content out there to clients as quickly as possible, and that's the route I've chosen. So that's why I didn't really reach my financial goal, because I'm house sitting. I've had guests here non-stop up until yesterday. So I've been doing all of that whilst house sitting. Like, I had my brother and his girlfriend over for a week. I had a friend over for a week. I had another friend over for a week. Like, I have just been full on hosting in a house that's not mine, navigating like this 7-month-old puppy that needs more attention than anything I've ever seen in my life, and running a launch and changing my core curriculum. And I've just made a lot of changes to my brand, my offers. I removed a team member, unfortunately, which was something I was sort of hinting at in last month's episode, but couldn't really give the details to, but I can now. And I just hired someone else as well. Like, oh my God, I have really just been through the trenches in terms of change, and I'm so embracing it and I'm so here for it. But my point is in sharing all of that is, as you can hear, like, it's actually quite phenomenal. I've done all of that and was only 5K off short from my goal. Like, what the heck? That's just wild to me. So what would I do differently? Well, if I was running a launch where I generate a lot of my income, I probably wouldn't be doing all of those things at the same time. But I chose to kind of affect last month's launch so that I could be super present for the next one, and we still made money, we still signed clients, we still grew our audience, and so that's okay. There's a lot of other specific lessons within that launch that also didn't go right, because not only did I not really give it the love that it probably needs, but also we are using Facebook ads for the very first time. And what I learned from this launch is that Facebook ads, meaning colder leads that don't know me, definitely buy differently to people that I've attracted organically, who have found me or I've found them and they've been nurtured over time. Very different process, and I didn't change my process. And so with this next launch that we're about to kick off with, I'm going to be making sure that we have the changes in place to make the paid ad leads be nurtured a lot faster and the whole process smoother. So I could talk for hours about my reflections and learnings from that launch, but I will save those details for my clients, because there's a lot of value to be shared there, and it's just a whole workshop in of itself. So yeah, what would I do differently? I would do a lot of things differently. One being present to the launch, and two, a lot of the tiny, big and small shifts I would do within the funnel itself and in the process to better accommodate for Facebook ad leads. So that's what I would do differently, and we're making all of those changes for this upcoming workshop, and I have really good intentions and a really good gut feel as well about the launch because of all of that. Like, now that the core curriculum is out the way, I've got the presence, and because we got the learnings from all the mistakes from the last launch, we're going to put that into this, and it's going to be fine. So really excited about next month, or this month as it's May now. I'm dedicated to providing you with as much valuable free content as possible to help you to grow and scale your coaching business sustainably. That's why I'm constantly rolling out new resources and events for you. To ensure that this podcast stays fresh with the latest offerings, I've compiled all our current free and paid offerings in one convenient place. Simply head over to www.sofiarosebernardi.com/links or follow me on Instagram at Sofia Rose Bernardi for the latest offerings. Thank you so much for being a part of this community, and let's get back to the episode. As it's May now, let's move on to the next goal. Weigh 65 kilos. Again, I'm house sitting. They don't have scales, so I haven't been able to weigh myself, but I definitely feel a lot leaner and thinner, which is wild because I have been out of my routine. I have not been going to the gym. I think we went back to Brisbane like once in the last month for like 3 days, and I did go to the gym those days. And outside of that, I have not been doing really much exercise other than going for a big walk every day. But I've been losing weight, and I think it's because I've been eating really healthy just by default. Like, there's no snacks in this house. I've just been in my zone of like doing this curriculum and having guests that I've been like distracted in good ways that I just haven't been eating, to be honest. Like, I've forgotten to eat so many times. It's wild. So because of this busy season, I think it's actually helped me in a way. I don't know if it's a little bit of stress. I don't know. Like, ultimately I feel good, but when I say stress, I'm more just mean like stress on the body in terms of like so many things on my to-do list, which is finally easing down now as of yesterday. But before that, for the last month and a bit, it's been quite full on, to be honest. But I feel thinner, and I'm really happy with how I look. I feel lighter, I feel healthier, and the only things that's been different is I actually haven't been going to the gym. I've just been walking. I went to a yoga class. I went to the gym, a couple of times when I was in Brisbane for those few days. I've been, eating really well. I stopped drinking coffee, and not as in like a hard no, I'm never drinking coffee again. But my point is that I've just not craved it at all, and I've just listened to my body on that. So I haven't really had coffee in a month, and maybe that's done something. That's probably one of the bigger changes I would say food wise is just, I haven't been drinking coffee. I've been drinking a lot of tea though. Anyway, so I can't say a specific number as to whether I've lost weight or not, but I definitely have, I've definitely lost weight. And so I'm very, very happy. So in terms of what I would do differently here, I'm just going to continue what I'm doing, to be honest. And as of the 18th of May, Geordie and I will be going back home because we will have finished house sitting by then, and I will be going back to my normal routine, and we'll just kick it off from there. My next goal is to go on weekly date nights and quarterly trips with Geordie. We went for a quarterly trip back in March, so that one's done and dusted, but we started talking about the next place we'll go in a couple of months' time. But in terms of weekly date nights, we have been doing that. In fact, we went on a beautiful date just yesterday, and we just had the best time. So I think what's working really well is because we're in a different environment, we're experimenting with going different places and doing really fun and cool things. So our dates are just really cool because we're just in a whole new location and it's really beautiful here. So that's been going well. Our relationship's just amazing, and I feel very blessed. The next goal is to invest $100,000 in shares for the year. Now, this wasn't going well because basically a lot of my income is stored within my business account, and it's, not just as simple as transferring it to my personal account. So I started to find it difficult to be able to invest in shares. But what I've gone and done is I've created a trust bank account and a trust investing shares portfolio. And I'm basically now able to invest in shares through the company, or through the trust, should I say. And so officially that was opened yesterday. A lot of things happened yesterday. So I invested in shares to catch up for the last couple of months where I haven't been able to. So now I'm up to date on that, and that feels really, really good. Now, the next goal is to save $200,000 for the year. And I'll be honest, this just is not feeling like a priority to me. I wouldn't even be able to really tell you if I'm on track for that or not. I definitely make a lot more than I spend, so I am saving money, but I'm just less inspired by this goal. I don't know why I said it in hindsight, because I am really good with money, and I'd rather invest it in things though than focus on saving necessarily as the goal, even though that's just what I do by default because I make a lot more than I spend. And that just continues to get better and better. So to be honest, I've saved money. Am I on track? I don't really know. And I don't really care because I just haven't prioritized it, to be honest. So I feel like I almost need to remove it from my goals, because if I'm investing, $100,000 in shares, I reach my 600K goal for cash in the business, and I'm happy in my relationship and with my health, far out. I will just by default be saving that and more, just because my income's increased so much, and I'm investing in things that are going to actually make me money, and saving isn't necessarily making me money. So to be honest, I'm kind of wiping that off from my goals. I just don't really care about it anymore. And then the final goal is the podcast. Now, we are still around about the halfway mark towards the goal, which is good, but could be better. Again, haven't really prioritized it. If you can't hear, I've been really focused on house sitting, updating my core curriculum, making all of these changes within my business, letting go of a team member and adding a new team member. So that's kind of been where my headspace has been at the last month, but the podcast still means the world to me. So we're halfway there. Collaborations have been really working. The views have definitely gone up from doing that, so I'm going to keep doing more of that. In terms of what I'll do differently outside of doing more collaborations is I'm going to re-record the call to actions for my podcast in the coming weeks. As my capacity frees up, and I'm going to be just promoting the podcast more than anything else in the ad breaks and things like that, to help get people to review the podcast and share the podcast and incentivize people to do so, because that's what I really want and what means the most to me. Now, that's all of my goals, the updates of what has worked, what I'm going to be doing differently. I've given you a bit of an update on the fact that I've been house sitting, been making all these changes. I'm going to really briefly speak about the letting go of a team member and hiring a new team member and some other little exciting things, and then we'll wrap up this episode. So if you go back and you listen to March monthly update, goals update, I shared with you that I was like going through something really challenging in the business that, was required a lot of growth and all of those sorts of things. Essentially, what I can now share, because it's actually happened and been finalized, is I let go of a team member, a very loved team member that I absolutely adore, and she means the most to me. Like, she's just the best. And the reason why it was so difficult that I can now share is because she hadn't done anything wrong. She's amazing at what she does and the role that she had in the business. The problem was that the role was no longer needed in the business. There had started to become a big overlap between that team member's role and my virtual assistant's role. But my virtual assistant has more time, more capacity, and is more affordable. And so, her skill set was just increasing, and it just, as that started to happen, the lines were blurred between the two people, and it just made no sense to have two people when one person could do it all. We have so many good systems in place. We're well supported. My VA just has a lot more capacity, and she's really stepping into like more of a full-time role within the business, whereas my other team member only had a select number of hours per week available, and it just didn't make sense. And so it was really difficult because it wasn't one of those situations where someone did something wrong, someone wasn't good enough, something bad happened, nothing like that. It was literally just the business doesn't need that role anymore or right now. And it would be really bad of me for people pleasing reasons, or just just wanting to like do the right thing, keep someone on if like financially and like business wise it just didn't really make sense. So I had to make a business decision, and my emotions very much got in the way, which is what made it so uncomfortable. And really, emotions don't do well in business. So that's what was so difficult. It ended amazingly. It was completely fine, and I don't regret the decision at all. It was definitely the right decision. I was scared that I was going to regret it and all of the things, but honestly, we're completely fine, and I know that I made the right decision, as uncomfortable as it was. Now, I also just the other day hired a new team member, though, not as a replacement. This is a completely separate role, someone to help me with all of the conversations in my world. So, basically, we're running ads, we've got a lot more leads coming in, and because my capacity's just been a little bit more full recently with, clients, curriculum, all of these changes within the business and so forth, I have had less capacity to like follow up with people, message people reminders to the events they sign up, check in with people and all that sort of stuff. And I've essentially just hired someone to do that so we can increase the amount of people that book a call with us, and therefore increase the amount of people that buy from us. And having someone do that for about 5 hours a day, Monday to Friday, is going to free up my time so much, because it is such an important task in the business. Like, it's so important. And I just don't have as much capacity in this season. So that's going to be so helpful, because it means I can spend more of my time, having sales calls to begin with, more of my time focusing on my clients, and more of my time improving the metrics and the strategies that we're doing within the business, and creating the highest quality content and so forth. So just delegating everything right now so that I have more capacity and energy, essentially. So wow, it's been a big month, another really huge month. Again, it's all been positive. It's just been a lot, to be honest. In a nutshell, I'm feeling really amazing. I'm feeling really healthy, really energized, and especially relieved since I finished this core curriculum, because that's a lot of videos to film whilst having guests over 24/7, showing them around the area, and me still getting used to the area and having a dog, and oh my God, all the things. Now, some final little exciting things that are happening in my world. I have just booked a 3-week trip to Europe. Oh my goodness. I am traveling Italy and France and Switzerland and Denmark here in July with 2 of my best friends, and I am beyond excited. Now, if you know me well, you will know that I am actually half Danish and half of my family live in Denmark. So in other words, I am going to go see my family, some of which who I haven't seen since 2017. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, like fucking 5+ years. Like, it's wild. So I did actually visit again a year later. So yeah, I haven't seen most of my family since 2018, December 2018. Yeah. So it's been a while. It's been a hot minute, not gonna lie. And I'm so excited and I'm nervous at the same time. I love Denmark. I love my home there, but it was also some of the most challenging years of my entire life. And so it's kind of scary to go back to somewhere where, your environment triggers a lot of things. But I think it's going to be a really healing experience to really just like release anything or shift through anything that needs to be shifted. So this is the first time I'm saying it publicly or out loud. I'm going to Europe. I almost didn't book this trip because 3 weeks is a long time for me. Like, I love being at home with a cup of tea in my comfort zone and with my partner. Like, that's what I love. And so 3 weeks feels really big for that reason. The other reason it feels really big is, I had so many questions come up, like, what about my clients? Like, what about the calls? What about the time difference? And so forth. And the other thing I had is I really want to go to Europe with Geordie, like with my partner, so he can meet my family. But Geordie really helped me to see that we are getting to the age where people start having children, people start getting married and engaged, and life really starts to change from 26 years old onwards. My friends are between 26 and 33 years old, and so people's lives really start to change here. And he said this might be one of the last times where you can go on a girls' trip to Europe and just live your best lives. And I was like, that's such a true point. Like, I really want to, if I can, have children in the next, few years or whatever that looks like. Who knows what the universe has in store, but it's going to happen on the sooner end rather than the later end. And so this actually might be one of my last times to do that, because I've got some of my best friends that are now pregnant, they're engaged, they're due to get married soon, all these sorts of things. And they're not in as much of a position to go traveling and just like get up and go like some of my other friends are. And that's completely fine. And it's certainly not to say that it's not possible by any means. It just changes the opportunity statistically a little bit, and so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to Europe. I'm gonna make it work with my client calls. Like, I'm just gonna hire some of the best people to do some of those trainings. I'll do some of the trainings, and then I will just check in with my clients twice per day like I usually do via Slack, and they won't notice a difference. So I almost didn't go because of my comfort zone, because I wanted to experience it with Geordie, and because of my clients. But then, I realized I can always travel with Geordie. I can't always travel with my girlfriends necessarily at this capacity in this way. I created a business that gives me freedom of choice. So to not choose to go to Europe would mean that I have created a business model that does not give me freedom of choice, and that in of itself is a problem. So I just got over that. And yeah, and here we are. I've booked a trip. So booked our flights last week. I am so excited. I'm also going to Fiji later in the year for a business trip with my team. And I'm just so excited for what's to come. So turns out doing a lot of travel. Geordie and I also go on a trip for a week every year. So we need to choose a location, maybe somewhere in Asia or Australia or New Zealand. I'm not sure yet. So yeah, it's turning into a bit of a year of travel, I'm not going to lie. And that is freaking cool. So there's a lot of good things happening in my world at the moment. I cannot wait to be reviewing May and telling you that it was a much calmer month. That's what I'm hoping, that ever since finishing my curriculum and all of these sorts of things, that my life is just a little more calm, and that our financial goal has been reached and overtaken and all is well. So that's my intentions to be coming back to you with. But all in all, I'm happy, I'm safe, I'm well. I hope you enjoyed this monthly update, and I'm really, really excited for what's to come. If you enjoyed this episode and you want me to keep doing these every month, please come chat to me on Instagram. I'm at Sofia Rose Bernardi, or on Facebook at Sofia Rose Bernardi, and let me know your biggest takeaways and thoughts. It means so much to me, and it allows me to continue doing episodes like this. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Although I can't see each one of you, I know you're there because of the downloads we see each week, and I appreciate your presence immensely. If something in this episode resonated with you, I'd be thrilled to hear about it. Connect with me on Instagram at Sofia Rose Bernardi. Share your key takeaways or simply say hello. Your thoughts mean the world to me. Remember, it's your feedback that keeps this show going. Until next time, take care.